Welcome to another episode of AI Coach. Our next guest is Randal Horobik. He is currently the Director of Speech and Debate at the Kamehameha Schools in Honolulu, Hawaii, where he also serves as an instructor in the speech department. He holds a master's degree in education leadership from Hawaii Pacific University and a bachelor's degree in communication from College of Wooster in Ohio. A one-diamond coach in the National Speech and Debate Association. His specialties include debate, limited prep, platform speaking. He was a coach of the 2004 North American Public Speaking Champion. As a competitor, he participated in the World Universities Debate Championships, the National Model United Nations competitions. These days, he is frantically attempting to keep up with the acceleration of technology as he attempts to integrate AI into both his classroom and his coaching roles. Please welcome Randal Horobik. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here, Jared. Thank you
Excellent.
so much.
So why don't we start with what got you interested in speech and debate? Everyone seems to have an interesting personal story on what led them to that.
Oh, goodness. So my speech and debate journey started when I was a sophomore in high school. I graduated from a really small rural high school in western Nebraska. And so there wasn't a speech class. It was a speech unit in an English class my sophomore year. And I was not the best student, let's say, when it came to preparing homework.
Oh, okay.
So most of my speeches for that class, I wound up winging it. And it was really great until one day my teacher asked me to repeat back, reread a part of your speech. And I couldn't do it. And he's like, well, look at your script. And so I had to kind of, come clean that there wasn't one. And he told me to, stay after class. And I figured I was going to get chewed out. And instead he's like, we have this thing called a speech team. You will be doing this event called extemporaneous speaking. And you will be in practice at 3:30 tonight.
Oh,
and
wow.
That was how it started. And western Nebraska, unknown to me at the time, had some amazing speakers in it.
Oh, really? Well, that's good. Yeah. I mean, it sounds similar to how a lot of other people get recruited into their speech teams.
Yeah.
My wife was just, they had to drag her, and then she became one of the best persuasive speaking people at her school. So we're here talking about AI, all right? ChatGPT really started making waves a couple of months ago. I sent out a request. I'm like, hey, if you want to talk about AI and using it in the classroom, specifically with coaching, I'd like to talk to you. And so that's how we connected. So have you integrated AI into any coaching, teaching techniques already?
Oh, absolutely. All my orators and my informative speakers, I tell them to take your script, copy and paste it into ChatGPT, and then the prompt you want to ask for is analyze the script for language usage, for clarity of message, and suggest any additional areas for research that might add to the script.
Has it been how have they received that?
I have a few students who think that I have gone off the deep end when it comes to the thing, because ChatGPT is just one of several that I'm pushing on the kids.
Okay.
Others think it's amazingly cute. It's like having a coach in their back pocket.
Yeah.
Our school currently has it blocked, so they can't access it too much from campus right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they became a little concerned. So that's one of the big conversations we're having on campus right now. But
wow,
I can get to it through my account, so they share their stuff through me, and then I send the feedback to them. But on a student level, currently through the campus system, at least it's blocked.
Now, you said that you're using other things. Now, does this mean you're using other AI tools, or is it just technology in general?
No, we use several AI tools. So my journey with AI actually started the year before COVID came out. I got approached by a couple individuals out of MIT who were test piloting a coaching AI platform, and it took the audio of a student giving the script and analyzed it for language content, pauses, vocal variants, tone, pitch changes, rate of delivery. And they had set it up specifically to be a coaching tool, and they were looking for about 10 schools to kind of test pilot it. And we were really excited for that. and I liked what I heard talking to him. And then COVID kind of crashed in and wrecked that whole.
Really? It sounded like like measuring tone and those other, especially the nonverbal cues, sounds a lot like a tool that I've been using a lot called Udely. Are you familiar?
Yeah, Udely would be very similar. I actually like Udely better because it breaks down even more than what this program did. I mean, there was 2 or 3 years difference between the two. So, but yeah, Udely was what I would consider to be the natural extension, and I love Udely. I use that for my professional competition. I have my kids use it. I use that in my classroom because that's.
Udely just came out with a new feature where it's a conciseness coach, where it takes an excerpt of what you said and reflects it back to you in fewer words and shows you how it can edit it and everything like that. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Which is whenever you sit down with a student and write a speech, and I don't know about you, but it always goes long because I want to cut back. You know what I mean? And so now just the editing process itself seems to be so much more efficient. Like, take this paragraph, that's 500 words, make it 300 words. It's just amazing. You just push a button.
Great technology. And what I love is it's non-intimidating technology for the kids.
Yeah.
They're used to looking in cameras and talking like we are now, and it doesn't phase them. Put them in a room with a live audience, and all of a sudden they're freaking out.
Yeah. So what are some challenges that you've come into when you're trying to integrate this? Like maybe even some drawbacks.
I mean, it's the same as pretty much any technology. I mean, obviously there are ethical concerns as far as kids taking it as an easy way out, and telling ChatGPT to write an assignment and kicking it out and turning it in as their own.
Right.
There are definite ethical questions out there. I understand the accuracy questions that some people have. I haven't personally witnessed anything that I have really thought was grossly incorrect in anything that I've generated out for personal use, team use. But I understand it's out there, and it's always in the back of my mind to kind of be double checking that. But,
there's an example where I like to come up with examples for figures of speech, and I wanted to find like a pop culture example. I'm like, give me a pop culture example of a fallacy, and it's like, here's a partial script from The West Wing, and I went to go look for the actual script where they took it from, and I couldn't find it, and so I went back and asked them, like, where'd you get this? And they're like, oh, I'm sorry, I misquoted. I'm like, misquoted? What does that mean? And they're like, oh, I made it up. So I don't know, like, that's the one thing that as I'm showing my students about ChatGPT, I'll generate stuff in front of them, and I'm like, oh, look, it's lying. That's not true right there. And it's fairly right. Either it lies or it's kind of vague.
Yeah,
is the two big problems, where it doesn't give really any detail that anybody can use to understand what you're going for, and so it keeps it sort of really general. But then other than that, that's still not even the majority of the time. Most of the time, it's giving great ideas. The thing I like the best is generating outlines rather than scripts. I'm like, this is what I've been asking you to do for years. Like 1, 2, 3. And they're like, oh, really? Yeah, that's what it is. And so, I don't know. That's been my experience with it. Now, do you see a role in AI playing other things about, like, how do you help them develop critical thinking skills? Because you were just talking about how it's like, oh, it could generate speeches, but how do you teach them to now look at those results and use it as a starting point rather than an end point?
Well, I think that, I think that's basically the key to it is getting kids to understand that this is a starting point, and now we can, once we've generated the beginning, we can start looking at those higher level questions about why is this, or how what sort of impacts do these claims have, and we can start asking those deeper questions. As ChatGPT gives you feedback, then you can delve into each of those points that it's so eloquently spells out, and you can dig deeper and develop analysis. and teaching the kids to look for that extra level, that really high level learning is the key. I haven't had, and my honors argumentation unit or class is in the fall, so it didn't quite catch the ChatGPT onslaught.
Right.
But I'm really looking forward to it next year, when I can have ChatGPT generate a basic level argument, and then the kids can start to tear it apart and analyze it on a deeper level, rather than having to generate a basic script on their own and then dig into their own stuff.
Yeah, I remember when chess engines eventually overtook human players, right?
Yes.
And that was within my lifetime, and everyone's like, all right, well, that's the end of chess. And seems like the opposite has happened, that chess is more popular than it's ever been, and we have arguably the best player that in all of history right now. And I actually think that it's not, I think it's not a coincidence that the the engine itself now becomes a source of inspiration, and they can analyze it.
And I think it's amazing to use that analogy, because I was using it myself talking to someone the other day, that it's we're very much at a deep blue Kasparov moment here, right. Probably a little bit beyond, and we know where the technology is going. I mean, we know that IBM's Project Debater is already capable of standing toe to toe with some of the best human debaters that have walked the planet.
Right.
We were talking before the show about it was a year ago that the Oxford Debate Union, probably the most storied debate union on the planet, was having an AI debate in its hall. So we know where it's going. It's just a question of scale at this point, and affordability. And so we need to understand. It's not a question of do we integrate this technology? The technology is on its way. It's how we're going to use it and what we're going to do with it. And yeah, I'm in agreement. I don't think it's not going to kill speech. It's not going to kill debate. It's going to it's going to tweak the game a little bit, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think the benefits, as far as accessibility, as far as some of the uses possibly for accommodations that people who might want to compete in our activity but aren't able to right now, or leveling the playing field for those individuals, I think it's going to be an amazing tool, and we just need to approach it with that in mind, and always be teaching the ethical uses of it.
Right. So you're talking about like integrating it, and this is just at the beginning. So have you run into issues about how to balance this new method of teaching with more traditional methods? And I don't know, like if so, how?
I don't think I've reached a problem with balancing yet, because I'm still too much kid in a candy store right now, and trying it out. So I am still at a stage of, how can I fully integrate this into what I do? And like anything, I mean, like pretty much anything else, there's some trial and error involved there, and I tell the kids, we're going to try this, and it might be a glorious disaster, but that's how learning occurs.
You have any advice for other educators that might be wanting to use AI as a teaching tool?
Go for it. I mean, the benefits to students are just overwhelming when you integrate it in. It from a coaching standpoint, it is literally like having a coach in your back pocket 24/7. If I it used to be if I had like debate argument ideas that hit me in the middle of the night, I would have to get up, wake my wife up, turn a light on in the bedroom, scribble it down on my notepad, and put it aside. Now I can I can have that mini debate with ChatGPT or something, and get feedback, or I can go on to elicit and find out if there are academic journals that back up my viewpoints and stuff, and get that information in a matter of seconds, and fully explore the idea more. But in teaching, there are just so many advantages, and kids love cutting edge technology. I use Dolly in class as another AI program for art. Talking about encoding and decoding messages, and and how to make your language clear and precise, and then having them try to describe an image and having Dolly put the image up on the screen, and they could see the difference between what they were envisioning and what Dolly envisioned, and then hey, the same thing happens when you're telling a speech. If you use imprecise language, your audience is also not going to get the image that you think it wants. What's going up on the screen right now is nothing different than what's going on in your audience's mind, but you can see this image now.
That's interesting. That it's a way of thinking, and it just sort of generated an idea about not just generating speeches, but I haven't used ChatGPT to render a decision yet. Have you done that? Have you had it listen to a debate maybe and then say?
I have not listened to a debate. I was a little horrified a couple weeks ago. I was sitting in the judging room as in case of emergency break glass judge, and overheard somebody in the room say that they had asked ChatGPT to write their ballot decision, and so coach, I'm like, I hope they made the decision and they're only using it to write the word, justifying it, as opposed to they type the arguments in and had the AI, But again, we know that. I mean, we know that's a potential direction things are going to go. I mean, there's Deborah on Chat Island is an AI completely developed to adjudicate debates. And right now it does it a little bit more like baseball. This side wins 5, this side wins 3.
Oh, okay.
So it doesn't really weigh arguments right now, has been my experience with it. But I mean, it's out there. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to perfect it better if we go in that direction. And so,
what would that do to that? Because I don't know about you, but when we have tournaments, one of the biggest problems always is having enough judges.
Yeah.
I wonder, if they're well, it looks like you're going to have an AI judge this round because we don't have enough.
I mean, it would make it convenient in some cases, but I also think, the strategist in me says that would open a bit of a can of worms, because
right.
Part as much as sometimes we'd say debate is losing that delivery component to it in some parts of the country and on some circuits. It definitely plays a role, and you can't really ethos, pathos, and AI all that much. It would be a completely different game, and you would have to teach kids how to play the game for an artificial intelligence judge versus a human panel, and there would definitely be adaptation needed.
I mean, but things like Udemy that's able to measure the nonverbal components, it makes you wonder how they might factor that into an overall evaluation of not just your speech, but of an entire debate. How do you, because it seems so natural to me in order to kind of go, oh, this person had better delivery, and I might be able to explain why. But then thinking about how you boil that down into specific data-driven components seems, it's definitely beyond my capability. But it's still an interesting sort of thought experiment. Yeah,
definitely.
So geographically, what are some unique challenges that there are, coaching in Hawaii, in the middle of the Pacific?
It is a unique environment. It's for lack of a better term, I've used the term, it's kind of a fishbowl situation, because you see the same 11, 12, 13 schools every tournament out. And so there's not a lot of outside factors playing in, and so that's it's a little difficult because your kids don't see the diversity of styles, because there's kind of every event is kind of adapted its own island style, I guess, for lack of a better description, and there's not a lot of outside influence coming in for people to see. And again, with COVID, that opened the doors a little bit, because teams were forced to, or were at least able to, enter some online tournaments. And so I know we had, our school competed in 7 or 8 states that first year of COVID when everything went online. And I know we had other schools from the islands that did the same thing, we hit a couple of Hawaiian schools at a tournament in I think it was Colorado or something one weekend.
Oh.
It's kind of funny that we were all still going to the same tournaments, but then I was like, no, it's not really that funny because we're all trying to avoid having to wake up at 2 a.m. to
Oh, right. Oh man, because the time difference is exceptionally exaggerated. Like
the time
already,
difference be 6 hours between here and Eastern Time Zone under daylight savings.
Yeah, 3 hours is already a somewhat of a hassle, but yeah, doing 6 full hours, that it seems impossible. It just seems
it got crazy.
Okay. Now, so how would you think that means that like this latest sort of AI generative technology is uniquely sort of beneficial to your situation in Hawaii that like maybe other people in other geographical areas don't quite appreciate?
I don't know if AI is giving us anything unique that wouldn't be beneficial in other parts of the country. I mean, like I can't think of anything that I would do different if I were, in the Hunger Games district of Florida or something like that.
Right.
But I think what it does do perhaps is, and again, this isn't unique to us, but it allows students to get a broader diversity of argument ideas
right.
that are out there. Because I would say the one, Hawaii is a very blue state. We're very Democratic Party state, and so so some more conservative ideas don't always filter their way into the public discourse and into debate topics. And so something like ChatGPT can open that door and make them realize that, hey, there's another realm of arguments that maybe you haven't considered because they're not the ones you hear in common discussion and popular coverage of these events through local media and through kind of the norm of discussion in this part of the country.
Well, you were talking before about how ChatGPT becomes somewhat of a coach in your back pocket. I would kind of only assume that finding coaches would be maybe a unique challenge, that like Southern California has so many community colleges with a bunch of programs that like the students can kind of jump from like school to school, like middle school and high school, and that it's almost like a farming system for coaching. It seems like would you say that like simply finding coaches in Hawaii is maybe something that's kind of uniquely difficult?
I think it is a challenge. I mean, we've seen the number of schools participating is on a slow decline across the state, and I think some of that is because I teach at a private school, so I can't speak for what's going on in the public realm. But I think as people kind of filter out of public school positions that have teams, whether that team continues is to a degree conducive on whether the person coming in getting hired has background in speech and debate, feels comfortable coaching,
right,
and that sort of thing. So, but yeah, I mean, one of the things I like about AI, having been a student at a rural school and having done a college program that didn't actually have a coach, we were kind of teaching ourselves and learning through observation of what the people on the circuit were doing to take that next step up. AI is going to be awesome for those people because it's going to be having a useful coach. And I'll give you an example from one of my novice Lincoln Douglas students. With a recent debate topic, she wanted to she didn't understand Rawlsian justice. She understood justice general, but she was a little fuzzy about Rawls. Right. Normally that's a conversation that she can go onto the Stanford Encyclopedia, read, hopefully understand, maybe not. It's something where she can come try and track me down and find some time, sit in my office, and I can talk about one of my favorite philosophers and stuff. Right. And but instead she's able to go online and her prompt in ChatGPT was assume I know nothing about philosophy, explain Rawls' theory of justice to me, and right. Get it in language that she was able to then comprehend and understand. And I think those are the sorts of little things. They seem insignificant, but those are the little tasks that coaches all over the country are doing nonstop, working with students.
Right.
now potentially going to be freed up because
Right.
students are going to be able to pursue that knowledge on their own, or students who don't have access to coaches with philosophy backgrounds are going to be able to find and get information from in useful fashions that are then going to allow them to forward their skills and their abilities and their talents.
One of my favorite things to do is to, I start going down a rabbit hole. Things start getting very complex. We're dealing with concepts that are very advanced, and then I just enter into the prompt, explain it to me like I'm 12 years old, and what it spits out is absolute pure. It's just I can't do it. Like I'm not wired that way anymore, and so that really helps me. And like when you want to have just a basic sort of conversational explanation about something really complex, it just makes that work so much easier, that you don't have to think about it. So we were talking about how like you're seeing less participation in speech and debate teams, at least across your state. What do you think the future is for AI and coaching and speech teams? Do you think this might actually kind of spur more participation?
I hope it does.
Yeah.
The trending of speech in general as something that high schools, it's a weird discipline area because colleges and high schools all embrace what speech deliver. They want articulate, intelligent students.
Right.
They want people who are able to talk on their own. But at the same time, the trend is we're cutting back those programs
Right.
out of cost concerns, out of interest from students, because it's an intimidating activity for students.
Yes.
So it's always been kind of this strange love-hate relationship with the activity that I see on national trends. I think AI, like I said, can help because just from my limited use this semester, kids love talking to the computer screen and the AI, and they don't feel that level of intimidation that they get when they're up in front of even their friends or their teammates or myself, a coach. They never want to talk to me as coach. But so it allows for an entry point for some students who might otherwise be intimidated.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to keep that in mind. I don't know if it'll have an overall large impact. I'm not sure if in my mind's eye I see that happening, but it's definitely useful on an individual level for certain students to lure them in and provide comfort where the activity might otherwise have been too intimidating to get them through the door in the first place.
What do you think? What do you think are some of the reasons that people are intimidated? And is there a way to, I don't know, adapt AI to address those things, like the challenges to getting people into the activity, and like maybe we can leverage AI to address those things?
I mean, I think some of them can be. I think some of them are kind of hardwired through brain development.
Oh.
And social pressures, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure AI can be programmed in a way that prevents people from not wanting to speak out of fear of how their friends or their classmates will react and stuff. But I do think and this might just be me because I'm a gamer. I love game theory and that sort of thing. I do think if you can develop an AI that is capable of standing and arguing on its own, we'll go back to the chess. If we can create a stockfish equivalent,
right,
on debate where you can set it to various levels and input your topic or have it spit a topic out and go, and people can stair step their way up. I think I think you can gamify AI in a way that people who might not come in to learn the activity would, whether they would admit it or not, in their basements at 7:00 at night, be online arguing with the computer just because they really like to argue.
Right.
And that in turn, I think, could get people through the door.
Yeah. Like the chess analogy coming up again is good because I don't know, sometimes it's a little comforting to play a computer. because it's this judgment free, it's not that somebody's beating you and like now you're wondering how they view you and your skill level and you as a person. It's just like, all right, like you could practice your skills before you enter into an arena with a human being. I find myself, having conversations with ChatGPT when I start, down one level. And so it just keeps on going back and forth. And ChatGPT is always so polite and apologetic when it gets something wrong. I think that's so great that they built that into it. The remoteness of certain areas. I'm hoping that there'll be people like us who kind of find ways to contact those areas and say, hey, look at this program. ChatGPT does, helps leverage a lot of this work, so you don't have to have the same costs that you're used to on a speech and debate team. I'm very hopeful for that in the future. Yeah,
it's definitely going to be, and I'm old enough. I remember when the internet came out. One of my first after college assistant coaching gigs was like right as the internet came out. And so I remember, standing in a library full of students trying to explain to them what the internet was. And here's how to completely transform the way you've done, forget everything you knew about research,
right?
How this is going to transform it. Here's how to use it. And, I see this as the same way, but, in so many ways, the way internet transformed life, I think AI is going to be the next step up. When I talk with people on the administrative team here, I make the comparison to the steam engine. I think 50 years from now we'll look back on the rise of AI. I can't call it the advent because it's been out there already, but right. I think this moment in time, I think we're going to look back on as with regard to its transformative capabilities and effect the same way we do with the advent of the steam engine and how it transformed life when it came into being.
It's an inflection point that we're living through right now. Absolutely. Randal, I really want to thank you for coming on and chatting with me about this. It really helps to get a good perspective on like the ways that this is used.
Thank you so much for having me here. It's been fun.
All right. Excellent. Everybody, we will have more AI coach interviews in the future, so please tune in again next week. Thank you all very much.